The media party's weird obsessions, that is the topic of tonight's byline. Did you hear that charges won't be filed against Nigel Wright? Now, most normal Canadians would automatically say, Nigel who? Most politically active Canadians wouldn't know Nigel Wright if he came up and kicked them in the shins. But to the political establishment in Ottawa, this is the big story. It led off coverage of the political shows on the other guys' networks. It played near the top of the national newscast. Front page story in The Star, The Globe, The Post, and the Ottawa Senior Citizen. Well, to them, this is big news. But is it really big news or just part of an ongoing media party obsession? Wright, of course, is central to the Mike Duffy story. He paid off Duffy's expenses to the Senate, those troublesome living expenses we all know so much about. So Wright resigned and was under investigation to see if he broke the law by paying off those $90,000 in living and travel expenses for Senator Duffy. But yesterday, the RCMP said the evidence gathered does not support criminal charges against Mr. Wright. Case closed. It's not even clear that Duffy will be charged. But on the chat shows and the headlines, the media party still bayed about how, well, this doesn't mean questions will stop. Of course the questions won't stop. They're the ones asking them. They're the ones deciding which questions are important. And to them, this is the important story. You know what isn't important to them? CBC President Hubert Lacroix taking $30,000 in improper expenses and then refusing to answer questions about it. I mean, asking questions about Hubie might mean they won't get hired by CBC or won't get those cushy panelist spots with paid-for trips to Toronto to sit with Peter and a few $100 thrown into their pocket. So the media party will ignore Hubie, but say that even as the RCMP drops questions and charges and the whole incident, the investigation of Wright, well, they say it's not over and they will continue to push on. Much like they did with Brian Mulroney and Airbus. After several RCMP investigations, a Royal Commission, parliamentary committee investigations, and untold millions spent by CBC on story after story, they never found anything on Mulroney and Airbus kickback allegations, but didn't stop them from pushing. It's all part of the media party agenda. It's all part of the disconnect between what's important to ordinary Canadians and what's important to those, well, self-appointed cultural gatekeepers in Ottawa. Their obsession of late is the Fair Elections Act, and they're trying to stop it. Now, most Canadians think that it's normal that you should have to show ID to vote. The media party doesn't. They're joining the fight against this, calling it an attack on democracy. To them, this is the biggest story since those big bad Harper conservatives stopped jailing people for refusing to answer very personal questions in the long-form census, which means it's a story that matters a lot to them and not really to the rest of the country. Walk a few blocks from Parliament Hill and most people couldn't give a hoot what these self-important yobs are saying. But they continue to try and drive the agenda, and their agenda is attack Conservatives on all fronts. As I've said before, these people think they're standing up for the rights of the little guys, so they call requiring ID to vote an attack on democracy. They don't bother to be inquisitive and ask if the Liberals, their Liberal and NDP bosses, actually require ID to vote. We showed you that yesterday. The NDP's rules read that it is the responsibility of that individual member to prove that he or she resides within the constituency and that she otherwise has the right to vote at the nomination meeting. What? You mean I can't just have some nice guy swear that I can vote? Or the Liberals? Well, the Liberals, if you don't have all the required ID, they'll still say that you can vote in a Liberal nomination race and be vouched for. But even to be vouched for, you need ID. Their rules say provide one piece of original identification issued by government agency, educational institute, municipal office agency, public utility, or credit card company that provides your name, and then be willing to swear an oath and be vouched for by a qualified voter in the riding who has identification acceptable in A or B above. Yeah, you won't hear about this from the media party because, well, looking that up would require some effort, and there's a lot of laziness going around, and it would also destroy their narrative. It doesn't fit their agenda. Again, attack Conservatives on all fronts. These people claim they stand for real Canadian values, but they don't. They don't stand against gender segregation in schools or community centres. They don't stand against unreasonable search and seizure when the Mounties kick down doors and take people's stuff. They don't stand for free speech when people are arrested or sent to jail for what they say. All of these instances violate charter rights and freedoms. Where are those members of the media party standing up for Canadian rights? I'll tell you where they are. They're off obsessing about the stories you don't care about, like Nigel Wright or the long-form census, or standing up for voter fraud and against ID. And they're doing that to further their real cause, defeating Stephen Harper and the Conservatives and replacing him with their messiah, Justin Trudeau. You can't trust the media. They aren't on your side, but thankfully, their ability to control the message is fading, thanks to Sun News, thanks to social media, to bloggers, to alternative news sites. Well, their days of shaping the country with in their own Laurentian elitist image, well, that's coming to an end, and the country will be better for it. And that's the byline.